Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I am Nick from Australia. Welcome to the Manly Warringah Seagulls 2020 season review. I have already reviewed 3 NRL sides. I reviewed the Broncos, the Bulldogs and the Cowboys. Tonight I'll be reviewing the 13th place Manly Seagulls, who had a really disappointing season, which absolutely surprised me. I tipped Manly at the start of 2020 to win the grand final, so that's a prediction that I highly regret, and I don't know what I was thinking, but anyway, guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're not far off 900 subscribers. It'll be very good if you can subscribe if you're new around here, and share the video to your mates and get them to subscribe and all that. So, without further ado, let's get into the Manly Warringah Seagulls 2020 season review. And the first 2 rounds before the COVID lockdown for 6 weeks before they restarted again back in May 28 and so on. But the way they started, Manly, they played Melbourne in the first round, and that was at Brookvale Oval, or Lotto Land. I call it Brookvale Oval because I think Lotto Land is a dumb name. But they started the year off against Melbourne, and they were disappointing. They got beaten that game 18-4. They didn't even score a try in that game. I remember that game well. I think it was 2 penalty goals, and Melbourne ended up beating them 18-4 in that one. And then the second game, in round 2, they took on the Roosters at I think it was Leichhardt Oval from memory, and they actually beat the Roosters, the back-to-back premiers, 9 points to 8, which was a hell of an effort. I remember that game. I think Luke Keary was about to score, and then Tommy Turbo came from behind and ripped the ball out of his hand, and Manly ended up going on to win that game 9-8, and then the whole lockdown happened, and then having a look at some of their results here, when the season restarted, they had a good win against the Bulldogs, 32-6. Then they played the Eels, where they got beaten 19-16 with that controversial no try where Turbo threw the ball and they called it forward, so they were a bit dulled in that game. And then the next week after that, they played the Broncos on a Thursday night, where Manly were a little bit lucky in that game. They were able to get away with that one against the Broncos, 20-18. And then in round 6, I reckon it was the Manly's best win of the season, where they defeated Canberra. Well, I think they had Joel Thompson and Jack Jajeski playing in the centres at one point. They had all sorts of injuries. I think they lost Turbo. They lost a lot of players in that game, and they went down to Canberra and they beat, I think it was in Canberra from memory. Let me double check that. No, it was at Campbelltown. Yeah, they went down. They beat Canberra at Campbelltown. They had Jajeski and Thompson playing centres. I think they had Curtis Sheridan playing there at one point. So that was probably Manly's best win of the year, in my opinion, because it was a gutsy Sunday afternoon game, beating a quality side, and they lost so many big names in that game. So that's probably their best win of the year. Then they had a game against Cronulla where they got beat 40-22, which was just an absolute disappointment. Then they played Newcastle, where Manly should have got a penalty, I think it was. I think that was the game where they should have got a penalty, but they didn't, and Newcastle ended up winning, so Manly lost that one. Then they got flogged by the Dragons, 34-4 on a Sunday night. Then they bounced back and finally won a game. They knocked off Parramatta. Then they went up to Townsville and defeated the Cowboys by 12. Got flogged against Penrith. Disappointing game against the Warriors, losing to Newcastle there. I remember watching that game on a Sunday afternoon at the pub, and how Manly got beat against Newcastle, and that one was beyond me. That was disappointing. Then they got absolutely thrashed against South Sydney, 56-16. Then it was that rivalry game against Melbourne, and they were flogged in that one as well. And then the game against the West Tigers was probably one of the most shocking, disappointing losses I've seen from Manly all year. I think they led 32-18 or something with fucking 10 minutes to go, and the Tigers scored like 3 tries in the last 10 minutes or something, and they come back to beat Manly 34-32. That's a really disappointing loss. Then they beat the Bulldogs 32-20. Got beat by the Gold Coast 42-24, and they got beat by the Warriors in the last round. So look, Manly's season was a huge disappointment. They were not good at all. Tommy Turbo had a lot of time on the sideline once again. Now, the question for Manly is, are Manly a one-man team? When Turbo's there, they're probably a 10 to 14-point better side. They are a 2 to 3 try better team when he is there. When he's not there, they are absolutely clueless. All the pressure goes on Cherry Evans, and they have no idea what they're doing because when Turbo's not there, the opposition who are playing Manly, they put all their focus on Cherry Evans, and everyone else just has no idea what they're doing. So it's an absolute mess. But, you know, a couple of good players for Manly this year. I thought Moses Sully had a pretty good season. I thought he was good. I thought Tavita Funa was pretty solid. He had a good year. I thought Cherry Evans was decent. I thought he tried hard. Fanil Blake was good when he was there. Curtis Sheridan, very consistent. Jake Trbojevic, you know, which you'll get every week with Jake Trbojevic. A couple of players who I thought were a bit disappointing. Martin Tapau was a little bit disappointing. He had a bit of a quiet season. I thought Danny Levi was disappointing as well. He didn't do a whole lot. I thought Brad Parker was really shit. I thought he was very ordinary this year, Brad Parker. Who else was there who had a quiet year for Manly? I thought Morgan Boyle was a bit disappointing too. He came down from the Gold Coast, Morgan Boyle. He didn't do a whole lot at Manly. I thought he was very poor. Even Ruben Garrick. Ruben Garrick had a great 2019. I think he suffered a bit of second-year syndrome this year, Ruben Garrick. There's been talks about him going back to the Dragons where he started through the junior system. So I think he was really disappointing this year as well, Ruben Garrick. And I don't know what Dylan Walker's doing. I don't know if he'll be there. Obviously, he's in a bit of trouble at the moment, getting into a fight or some shit. I'm not going to go into it. I don't really care about the situation. Don't know what his going to be happening with Dylan Walker. But, you know, they had a couple of good young players like Tanella Paseka. I thought he was terrific for him this year. I thought he played well. There's this other young bloke from Manly. I can't think of his name. Let me have a look because I'm fucking sure this bloke had a good year. I'm just trying to find out what his fucking name was. Hang on a second. Morgan Harper. Came over from Canterbury late in the season. Played really, really well. Morgan Harper. I thought he was very good for Manly. Sean Kepi wasn't too bad. You know, Sipley was a bit quiet. George DeFille was the other one I'm forgetting. He was really disappointing. And, you know, Tony Williams didn't even play. He didn't even get a run this year. And Corey Waddell's going to the Bulldogs. So, you know, disappointing year. But at the start of the season, looking at Manly's roster, looking at their team, full strength, they look like a side that were going to be really good. And they were the complete opposite. Now, a lot of people out there are going to be criticising Daz Hasler as head coach. Now, look, here's the thing. In my opinion, Daz Hasler can coach. He is a great coach. He has done a lot in his coaching career so far. Look, he won a grand final for Manly back in 07. They lost 07. They got to the grand final. They won in 08. They were good for so many years. Won a grand final again in 2011. And then he went to the Bulldogs. His first year at Canterbury. They make the grand final in 2012. Get beat by Melbourne. 2 years later, they're in another grand final against South Sydney. They get beaten that. And then he was at the Bulldogs. They had a couple of years where they struggled a bit. He got the sack. Had a year off. And last year, 2019, Manly made the 8 with a team that didn't even look like they were going to be anywhere near the top 8. And they got there. And they did very well in 2019. So I think this year was disappointing for Manly. They just can't seem to get a lot of good players on the field. I think going forward next year, they've got a lot of shit to work on, the Seagulls. I think they need to figure out what their defence is like. They conceded a lot of points this year too. I think there's a period here where they conceded, I know it was the back end of the year, but have a look at this. From round 12 to round 20, Manly conceded 42 against Penrith, 26 against the Warriors, 26 against Newcastle, 56 against Souths, 30 against Melbourne, 34 against the Tigers, 20 against the Bulldogs, who were terrible as well, 42 against the Gold Coast, and 40 against the Warriors. Defensively, Manly need help. They need to get their defence right. I think Kieran Foran will be good for them next year. So, you know, I think Manly, for mine, going forward, they're losing Fanil Blake. They're losing a couple other players. Joel Thompson's going to St. Helens. Corey Waddell is going to the Bulldogs. So I think Manly going into next year, they need to sign a hooker for a start. Danny Levi didn't play well this year. They need a hooker. They need a fucking another centre, I think. Moses Sili's good, but they need someone else. They need a back rower. But I think Jack Jajeski is good and Curtis Sirenen. But they need some depth in the front row as well. I know Paseka will probably start, but they needed more than that. So, you know, going into 2021 for Manly, I think they've got a fair bit to work on. And I'm not sure if they'll be in the top 8 next year, but I think for them to be in the 8, they're going to need to go to the open market and try and sign some other players, like maybe a front rower, maybe a hooker. They definitely need a hooker because I don't think that Danny Levi is good enough. If I was going to suggest a hooker for Manly, maybe someone like Jake Granville, who's very stale at the Cowboys. Maybe he'd be a good fit down there. Maybe someone like Darryl Clark from Warrington. I don't know. Maybe maybe Sam Verrills, if I can try and pick up someone like that. But, you know, overall, Manly's season was disappointing. In my opinion, their best player for 2020 was probably... oh, jeez. How can you pick? They didn't have many good players at all, the Seagulls. I'd say their best player for 2020 was probably... It's hard to go past Jake Trbojevic because he was great all year, but if I had to pick out their worst player, I know he's a winger, but Ruben Garrick and Brad Parker, they were both really poor, so they're probably the worst of the season. And if I had to give Manly's season a rating out of 10, with 10 being the best, I'd probably give Manly's season probably a 3 out of 10. I thought they were disappointing as well. And honestly, I reckon they're the most disappointing team of the season. You know, I know a lot of people out there will say the Broncos and Cowboys were the 2 most disappointing sides. Yes, they were terrible. They were disappointing. But if you go back to the start of 2020, Broncos, Cowboys, and Manly, right? Manly were expected to do better than all of them. Everyone thought Manly would be a chance and contending for the grand final. No one thought Brisbane or North Queensland would be near the grand final. So, Manly were, for mine, most disappointing team of the year. Their best player was probably Jack Trbojevic. Their worst player was probably Ruben Garrick and Brad Parker. I think they need to get Tommy Turbo fit next year if they're going to do anything. But, you know, that's going to wrap up, guys, my Manly Seagulls review for 2020. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure you guys go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Manly Seagulls season. Where do you see them going next year? Let me know in the comments below. I'm out of here, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.